G'day and welcome to Dog Talk. I'm Dan Camilleri.
And I'm Laura McKillop. We'd like to start by thanking Enduro for their ongoing support in bringing you our live weekly Q&A. Tonight we're fortunate enough to be speaking with Sean Barrett from Black Dog Livestock Education.
Sean will be picking who he thinks has asked the best question of the night, and they will win a bag of Enduro high-energy food for working dogs with real kangaroo meat.
I'm Sean Barrett. I have moved around a fair bit, but we're at Waluga, which is in the sort of Wide Bay Burnett region of Queensland. Near Gympie, if that makes sense. And we've sort of spent most of our lives doing weaner education, working, and we're enough now that we can settle down on a that belonged to my grandparents and uncle, and we sort of took over that, and we've also bought the neighbour out, so that's given us a bit of a reason to sort of settle down and get old. That's how it happens.
Yeah, beautiful. Beautiful. And what stock do you have there, mate?
We've got Droughtmaster cattle here. We're running a stud because we're not satisfied with just doing just commercial cattle. We've got to go to the level all the time. But so it's been an interesting venture. My grandparents started the stud back in 1965. So it's a bit of a family deal. So it's been really good actually. Yeah, to get back onto cattle. Yeah, properly for yourself, I guess. Yeah.
And have you done anything away from that property?
So we sort of got onto this property in 2008, but prior to that, we were always travelling, doing work. I guess we did try to slow down a couple of times and property, and that's when I found out that I was pretty well unemployable. I like to do things my way, unfortunately. So that's probably why quite a few dogs hate me too. So I've taken the heat for a while. So, but yes, prior to that, but then yes, I definitely had to find sort of work we could. Generally, that was doing winter education. I was doing a few dog and stock handling education for people, and also doing basic day-to-day sort of mustering and contracting of livestock. Yes.
Beautiful.
That's awesome. And where did you mentioned you?
Yeah.
Sorry, what was that?
You're right. Oh, you're right. I also meant to say that there was many times where I was driving down to Victoria to do a fair bit down and out in the Western Districts as well. So it was plenty of time taken up doing that.
Yeah, and you mentioned earlier that that property that you guys are on now was your uncles and your grandparents. So obviously there's a long line there working in the industry. Where did your passion for the livestock industry come from? Was it from day dot, or was it something that developed?
Probably earlier in I was in Brisbane and came up here onto those different times, and so that was actually quite good because I guess I saw a passion for it, and I really enjoyed the company of my grandfather and uncle as well. They were two top blokes that had a lot of knowledge, and were prepared to share it. So it was a good fun workplace. So I wanted to be here, but I went off to Emerald Ag College, so that was good.
Yep. And what made you go to the Ag College?
It was my grandfather. He felt it was the best way to get out and learn new ideas and whatnot. And so that was the direction we took, and it was brilliant. As you know, they've all back down now, but they were a brilliant environment for younger people, and especially people with rural or rural sort of thing. And to get together, because it was such a network of people, and there's so many people that we still keep in touch with and stay in touch with them only from our year, but either a year below us or a year above us. So and then no doubt you'll also run into someone and they say, "Did you go to Emerald Ag or whatever?" And so it's a long list, and it's a real shame that it's shut down, unfortunately.
Yeah, and it's amazing the influence our grandparents have on us for what we're going to do with careers as well. You know, you said there it was your grandfather that pushed you in that way. I remember my grandfather telling my cousin he was going to be a diesel mechanic and me an auto electrician, and we both ended up doing that as well. So it's I could see influence on family, and especially your grandparents, like peers growing up, and they can really shape our futures, can't they?
Absolutely, and I mean they shaped it that much as that. He actually said to me one time, he said, "Oh, there's a girl next door here, and she's not too bad." Anyway, I ended up marrying her, so yeah, that worked out right.
Oh, that's the best. Yeah, that's awesome.
That's gold. And how long has that been now, mate?
It's 26, going on 27 years, I believe. It's in April next year. So yeah.
Well, congratulations, mate. The grandfather was on something good for you.
Yeah. He was, yeah. And look, we've worked together most days of our life too. You'd have to say the relationship's been tested at different times.
Yep.
But overall, she's probably got the better right than my left, yeah.
And what about from away from dogs and livestock? Have you? Is there something that you or the family like to do?
Yeah. It doesn't seem like there was ever much other than that. We did get away to. We're fortunate too. It's not that far to get to some pretty nice beaches around here, and do that. But also we often visit friends that we knew through dogs or whatnot else, and sort of make that a bit of a holiday. So we did do a big trek out to Uluru a couple of years ago, and sort of got around that whole area, and that's quite a memorable moment for us. But so we did try to take time, but we used to have a lot of dogs, and I think there's people in the dog world would understand. And there's only a handful of people that you can trust with a large amount of dogs to feed and run and care for them over time, so that sort of we went on holidays where we could take our dogs. So that's pretty well how it.
So, you obviously do a fair few livestock handling schools and stuff, but in your time with dogs and stock, have you noticed a change in the way people handle livestock and dogs? And do you feel like as if it's for the better?
Yeah, it is a good question. Look, overall, I think possibly, yeah, that's a bit of a broad statement. Look, I think there's a lot of people, there's a lot of companies that are trying to do a lot better with how they're handling livestock, and it's driving that in those bigger companies might be the but also, I mean, there's the whole animal welfare to consider in those big. It actually helps, and it certainly does pass on down the line. And there's a lot of mid-range people doing some really a lot of livestock, and I think as people whether it be cell grazing or whether it's time management or whatever they want to do, with the more they handle, they're starting to understand that they need to be faster to be repeatable. And I think when we used to go out mustering, it would be hard, fast, and the yards and start processing because we've got another 6 paddocks or whatever. But generally, I suppose, if you're doing cell grazing, you start putting a few mustering as many paddocks, but you are mustering them. And if you're doing it wrong, that really escalates when you're doing that sort of more intensity, doing it in a feedlot, or whether you're doing it in a paddock or a yard. There, if you're doing it poorly, it piling up on each other, and the worse the cattle get. Whereas if you're doing it better, it'll start flowing and going, and you start gaining never used to have.
There's a question here from Charles Williams, and he's asked, what motivated you into teaching stockmanship in schools?
A great question. Thanks, Charles. It was one of the big things was I started our very first working dog school with Neil and Helen McDonald, and they were terrific mentors, and to say that they helped us would be an understatement. I mean, they basically carried us for a fair while, and we would have been dead weight. Well, I particularly was dead weight. Yvonne was pretty, but those guys helped us out immensely, and always, and then it's always time to sort of give back to the industry, and that's what I feel I'm trying to do at this stage. Yeah, I've got a couple of sort of charity type jobs with the stock schools, because it's probably not my main income anymore, and that's good for me, because I can actually teach from the heart, not worry about the money so much. Whereas when you're, as everyone knows, when you've got a young family and you're struggling along payments and whatnot, you make some poor decisions at difference, and then you also decide to have someone a lot. So, but I mean, we still charge what we charge, but I'm trying to give back to a few of the charities and try to spread the word. I think we helped out Aussie Health there with one clinic, and then just recently we did the PR injury ward. So and that was pretty good, because a lot of blokes, even from my college days, have either suffered from head injuries, or they've they've been affected with their families.
Would you say some of those injuries they happen in the yards around stock? Yes, look, and popularisation, familiarity always breeds contempt, and we never expect to gate anywhere near as much as what we should, and sometimes people turn a blind eye as they're shutting a gate. They're thinking about doing something else, and they shut the gate on the back of a hoof or something like that, and that comes flying back at them far faster than they were shutting it, and they go. So it's that's one of the common ones. Look, other things were just simple horse injuries or motorbike injuries. So whether that was from fast mustering, I don't know, because the person couldn't remember. So generally, people couldn't really remember. So sometimes it was just a horse that played up, or a breakaway gully that they never saw in the grass. So there's those sort of head injuries too. But on the whole, I would say you're correct though, that I think that's one of the things that are starting to improve in the industry, is people being more aware what can actually hurt or kill them. Yeah.
And so you're obviously educating weaner cattle for other people as well as yourself and through your schools. What does your program sort of look like?
It's been refined and then refined and then refined again. So really, the first day is just introduce those young cattle to the I know that everyone's got their own different way of lever, and if you're trying to move the cattle, you need to move yourself as well. Don't try to hold them in a corner. And don't give them any other. You got to give them somewhere to go, so that start feeling the reason why they need to move from pressure, because that's what we're talking about: pressure, desirous relief. So that's the hardest thing for me to watch is other people sitting there trying to force cattle into a corner, and they've got no out, and then it's just violence for that, and the cattle aren't really learning, except they're just running away from fear. And it's not like a last. What we want is a lasting effect where the cattle are just feeling calm, knowledgeable about what's going on, but also respectful of whether it be dogs or humans that are moving them. So that's the first day. And then the second day, and then we, I generally, feed them and water, settle them down pretty nicely. And then the next day, I take them outside for a bit of a wander, and that can go sideways in a little. It generally goes pretty well if you've done your homework right in the yards. It's not too big a thing, but you should always be a bit. Have a bit of a knot in your stomach before you let them out. Otherwise, they've been in the yards too long. So, by getting them out on the grass, I always feel that they're not changing their rumen over as much. A lot of people lock their weaners up for 7 days, and then they start trying to tame out and whatnot else, and by which time their rumen starts to change around. So we like to get them back out on the grass that they're eating when they were on their mother.
Yeah,
and that sort of helps that this sort of gone out. So strange feeds was the third day. Then it's it's all about putting them through the yards gently, sending the dogs away. They can have a good spell, yards and whatnot else, and make sure that they're calm and flexible, and that they are understanding and seeing what I'm asking. I'll take them outside again in the afternoon, and dogs and whatnot else, and feed them out just great. Those mobs, I mean, she's just made one look like a hero, but anywhere from 500 to 1,000 we're taking out there at Surat, and I did take them out by myself at that stage as well, towards the end. So it's just a matter of building up enough dogs that understand. So it was a good time. And the fifth day is just another take them out, work them. People can draft them, do whatever they want to do. The owners of the livestock, they can draft heifers, steers, and whatnot else. And then the cattle go out to the paddock. It's all done and dusted, though. Yeah, but I wouldn't recommend going under 5. I still think the 5 days is necessary. A lot of people want to rush it through, and that might be fine for them. But I like to see the job done properly. So that's pretty well the weaning way. Yes.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And what are some of the main advantages of spending a lot of time and educating weaners effectively and spending the time with them?
Good question. Interestingly enough, I was working on a pretty interesting place, and I was doing a fair few weaners, and they had to recommend some of the gear in the water that had a fair bit of manganese, which slows the cattle down a bit, like green cap and whatnot. And that'll do the exact same thing, but it slows the cattle down, the weaners, and they sort of say that it's a lot better for them at weaning time and whatnot else. And I put the cattle through the program, and I actually rang the manager and said, I'm not happy with it. These cattle reacting very well. They're sleepy. They're on drugs. It's like they've seriously smoked a lot of marijuana. So they just walk along in a haze. And he said, oh, well, yeah. And I said, I'll keep proceeding. He said, I'll keep proceeding. And he said, oh, we've got 1,000 to do in a fortnight's time. He said, and we'll just measure it up. And so we went through and did it. And anyway, they rang up 3 days after I left, and And they said, "Oh, mate, these cattle just took out a whole heap of fences." And I said, "Oh, did you keep on that stuff?" And they said, "No, we took it out of the water." And I said, "Yeah, well, they're just waking up." So anyway, I went out. We'd never had that issue before, and I'd been there for about 5 years, so I knew what was going on. And so then I went out and did the other mob, the exact same that we always used to, without the additives, and the cattle weighed better at the end of weaning. They drafted better. They never took any fences out, and what can I say? It was probably, it's a bit of a sign that sometimes, science gets in the way of good stockmanship.
Yeah, that's that's a little story that you're not going to forget in a hurry either, isn't it?
No, that's exactly right. Yeah, no, look, there's no lasting correct education, and I mean, if you want an education system, it's kids that have gone through with this scans and whatnot, parents that just don't understand what the kids are taught like that. So there's this big gap in the education. And if you don't do the education right, and I always say the courses, if you sit there and drop your kid off at kindy, and the teacher gets the classroom, shuts the door, and just turns it back on it, you'd go going, "That's right, they've got sandwiches in the corner, they've got water over there," all the time, and about 3 of them would be dead in the doorway, all got water bellies and sloshing around somewhere. 3 fat kids on the sandwiches that are just eating like there's no tomorrow. And that's what happens basically if you put your weaners into a yard for 7 days and don't. That's why the education's got to start on the very first day they get into the yard, to my liking anyway.
Yeah. And what sort of dogs have you got?
Ordinary. They used to be pretty handy. It's farming, and I'm starting to understand why farmers have farm dogs. So when we used to travel around and have quite very, very good dogs, we could never understand why farmers' dogs used to come in and start in the shearing shed and a few other different ideas that they had. And now I think I've got those dogs. So it's just a line. Yeah. But it's it's what it is. Yes. So
very honest at least.
I've got kelp. Yeah. Thanks, Laura.
No, I didn't mean it like that.
Yeah.
So,
and
basically, we've got kelpies.
Why kelpies?
Yeah, why kelpies is we feel that they've got. Well, for starters, it was because that's what Neil had, and if I could say something there, that's what us into dogs was. We went to that first course, and Yvonne and I both had some really ordinary, homebred, sort of local bred, whatever it was, loaves of bread basically that they would have been, but although that would have been useful. So we went there and asked to buy some dogs after we worked out that ours weren't doing the job. But what we did see was there was 5 head of cattle that they sat there and put through barrels and took them around again and back through and around again and back through. And they did that for seriously, about 2.5 hours, Neil and Helen, with other people's dogs and helping people course around through there. And these were Brahman cows or something, Brahman heifers. And they just kept doing it. And then at the end, when they were finished and we were just about to break for smoke, Neil started talking, and he was talking there for a fair while. But those cattle, there wasn't a dog anywhere, but they were quite happy just to stand with us. They weren't doing it because they were scared. They were doing it because there was no pressure there. So that's where we got the liking for the kelpies, and that's why we probably developed into kelpies. And there's pros and cons to every animal, and with the Kelpie there is a fair con to them as well. But what I did find with the weaner educating, they can go and think for themselves, and generally travel with the weaners a lot better than what I found with border collies that sort of needed a little bit more progression and conversation, talking to them all the time, or reassuring what they were doing was correct. So that was a long way of getting around to saying these Kelpies.
That's all right. No, it's good to get some insight as to why.
Definitely. Question here from Tristan Lyons. He's asking where you source your dogs from these days, and do you follow a certain line?
Oh, yeah. Look, recently we just got one from Kamala Kelpies, and she's a bowler. I bought her as a dog, and too smart for me. But she's slowing down on she's starting to adjust to my stupidity. So we're starting to make it. The lines that we had, we offer some pretty handy dogs that were quite strong, and day, like sort of some of the Barrett Bogey and Capri type line, and then we sort of went back to more cattle work, not doing the sheep work as well. So worked down through that Western District there, but when we stopped, slightly different dogs, and I started Yarrawara, and that rolled in the dogs that we had at the time, and they still had strength, but that distance, but grip and hold, and I also thought for themselves, and that where I just wish they'd come when they were called, but sometimes we could call them, and as soon as we called them off, a beast would break on that spot. So more than us, and the hardest part with those dogs, especially, is trying to understand them rather than trying. So that's my fault.
Yeah, and do you like a team of similar dogs, or do you like a couple of different types in your pack?
I mean, I always like a few different types in my pack for sure. Like a motor, and then your steering wheel. So car to drive. So, and I think it's the same thing with a mob of cattle, and some to steer the lead or the front portions, and then some of the driving, or you can just get dumb dog really that just thumps away at the back there. He's probably waits, and look, there is a purpose. Neil McDonald used to always say that he said, look, if always wanting to be on the left side, go and find one that's going to go and be on the right side. I mean, it is. You just got to try to work out what you're doing instead of dollars for the perfect dog. I think what you got to do is just try to work through, and all team there that needs to be present, and you've also got to look out for team members. It's just very much like building a rugby league. That's why Queensland's so dominant in the bloody.
Oh, here we go.
They can
heard it all now.
Picking those young people.
I can't make a comment. I don't watch the footy, so.
So
until Panthers are winning, and then I'll go for Panthers.
I think it really does come back to that team, and you can't leave it too long. I mean, I think a pup every 6 is probably too many for most farmers, but I think probably they should one every year, to come in through, or to try to look to purchase a new dog every 2 years if they're going to buy an up and going dog sort of thing, so that they've always got something young coming through, because I guarantee the day you think you got your team perfect, some tragic accident along, and you've got no control over it, but it happens. And whether it be a snake bite or something simple like that, or something a bit more traumatic. So very good.
Absolutely, mate. Was there was there a most influential dog to get you to where you are? And what made them special?
Influential dog. Influential dog to where I am. I could say there was a couple. I had really nice dogs in my time, and possibly because of the travel that we were doing, we didn't get there as much as what I wanted. But I did have one male that we did breed ourselves, and that was black dog Lenny, I should say, black dog Lenny, and then the other one was Puds Mindy, and both those dogs. One had, like, black dog Lenny had an amazing amount of strength, and I had to learn how to use it. Instead of asking him to put on all the time, I had to try to get the right times, and he was starting to show me, no, not yet, mate. If I do this, it'll blow up. And my impatience, I always asked him to do it. He was a good dog. He did it, and then showed me exactly why he wasn't trying to force at the time. So he taught me a hell of a lot. And Puds Mindy, she was a fantastic bitch that Richard Puddicombe, who is, he's an absolute champion, helped me and Yvonne a hell of a lot. Helped me probably more than anyone. Helped me a lot anyway. So, and Puds Mindy was brilliant on cattle. She was just amazing. Like, you'd go out into a paddock, she'd disappear, you'd ride along, find a mob of cattle, there she is. She'd just light out, she'd do a whole paddock, sort of anything from 1,000 to 2,000 acres by herself. You'd just ride around with your other dogs and pick up cattle. She'd hold them in different spots for you. It was just brilliant. So those two dogs, I'd say, were my dream dogs. And did I put them together? No, I didn't, because one was dead at the time. But when in between the gap there, but it's just one of those things. And as I said, like with travel and whatnot else, there was times there where we should have probably joined dogs, but we didn't need a litter on the road. So
yeah, no, that's fair enough. And what do you make a good cattle dog?
A good cattle dog, yes. That's probably that's going to be a controversial statement, isn't it? I'd like one with no heel bite in it whatsoever. Look, any animal trying to travel forward, if it's getting annoyed from behind, it's always going to turn around and try to look at what's annoying it. So I don't see a place for it much ever. Some people argue the point. I've had dogs that do it. Don't worry about that. And it's not for like. It was just until I found another dog to replace it. There are times and places I don't ever see a time and a place for heel bite, but I do see a time and place for a good nose. I see no place for a bite on the ear. That's just a waste of time. That dog's weak, as far as I'm concerned. If they're biting on the ear, they should be on the nose. Anyway, that's that. But a good cattle dog, let's go positive. Good cattle dog is a dog that understands flight zone, position, and has some anticipation of what the mob's about to do. Has the willingness to give ground if it feels that it can block at the time. So, a good friend of ours, Darren McCainch, he always used to say that a dog should be like traffic lights on a main road, so one's up for road trains, and sometimes those dogs, instead of hitting with a red light straight after the amber, they actually hold that amber light just a lot longer, so that big road train of cattle can slow down and pull up to the dogs. But a lot of people ask their dog to come in and bite as the cattle are running down the hill, and generally the ones that come flying out the back looking like the back of a bloody All Black ruck. So yeah, it's a bit of a mess.
From football to rugby, we're all over the sports today. But again,
we haven't done the races yet. Okay. I think that's pretty well covers the cattle. Yeah. It covers the cattle. It should have strength, and that's. I think there can be a thing lacking in some of our industry. Is some of the strength. Strength's not bite. Strength. It's a presence though, and it's as Richard Paddington would have said. There's a middle ground. You've got to have that middle ground. It's getting from A to B through the flight zone at a steady pace, not flying through there or rushing to the side and whatnot else, but just gently, just walking through with strength, and that was one of the great things of that put signature, and certainly there's Marinella pin. There was all the older lines, badge, Capri badge, and Capri watch type lines that used to really be able to do that quite well in my experience. Yeah,
absolutely. Jess Finn has asked, how important is trainability or having a biddable dog to you compared to having something natural?
Yeah, thank question, Jess. It's trainability and biddability. I don't know. I think there's a bit of two different things. So I think if we look for friendship with a dog, so that we've made it our mate, that is really important to have with that dog. And then trainability is low on my list of things for a dog. I believe my working dogs happen to be about 98% pure genetics. It's looking back into their pedigrees or anything like that, but they've got to have about 98% genetics to be able to work, to be able to read flight zones, to be able to do their things more than naturally. And I think there's very little of my work nowadays, or probably previously with the weaner education, has ever needed much trainability. I can get them to stop for a while. I can get them to stop and wait for the cattle to come out of the yards. I can probably occasionally, but that's that one's iffy too. But realistically, I think if you build that friendship, they'll try for you. They'll start to understand what you're trying to ask them, and they'll break away from what they're doing and try to come to help you just because that's what mates do. So that's why I probably put friendship, but with respect, so that you're a mate. Yeah. So rather than no problems at all.
So you obviously like a very natural dog. How important is identifying natural strength in a pup or a young dog, or like compared to building it with age and experience?
Yeah, I think with a younger dog, I think there's a lot of people that rush a dog, and it's probably industry wide. Like, I mean, no one wants to sit there and look at a pup for bloody 12 months and 15 months before it tries to stay. That's probably society, really, and it's a fault with the society. I think that we're not patient enough, and sometimes really good things come from the late maturers, and they just keep getting better and better, like a bottle of wine. But then also sometimes they can be just a complete waste of time, as we've all found. So I do like to see a bit of initiative in that sort of first 4 months of age. 4 to 6 months, like more so about 4. Introduce them to something, whether it be just like potty cubs, some weaners, whatever. We do have some sheep. Those things haven't been anywhere near a training yard or a system for about 6 to 8 years now. So they've just been for sheep are a good way of doing it, and there's any good trainers out there that can teach people how to do like correct training. I'm probably not that guy to come to. I have been trained correctly, but I probably just too lazy. And I feel that 90% of most graziers, like all common farmers, won't have the time for it to do it properly. And if it's going to be half done, it may as well not be done at all. To me, yeah. So because all you do is start confusing things, and next thing you start going out buying trinkets that are called bloody, dog collars or something like that, and try to use that to get your training done, and it's just comes back to laziness or lack of time, doesn't it? So it's not my go, not my go at all.
So, are you still breeding many pups there, Sean?
It's trying to. I guess the trouble is too that we did take a break there for a while. Everyone and I, because of time spent with our dogs and everything over the years, it did take a bit of a toll on us, and we were sort of, to put it gently, we were a bit dogged out. We were a bit done. We were a bit, over it. Not over it, but we were also enjoying this new venture on the farm. So I would say that we've started trying to breed again, or we're getting new dogs into our teams both ways at the moment. I've been contacting a few friends that have had our bloodlines and whatnot else, and I just got told on the phone today that there's a litter with a pup with my name on it. So I'll be all over that one. Once I give him the money, obviously he wants that first. But we are trying to breed one of my bitches that I think she's pretty well what I've always been trying to breed all my life, and she's just got a lot of attributes there that are very, very worthy. But do you think I can get her in pup? Not a chance. So anyway, we'll try to get back to it again soon, I think.
So what are you looking at or considering, like when you're looking at joining a bitch?
Yeah, well, I really do look at the bitch. I mean, everyone 50 and whatnot else, but I don't know. It's an interesting thing. I really believe a lot in the bitches, and I think they carry the bulk of the genetics through, or they have an influence over a bulk of the genetics. And I think what people may forget about when they're looking into their breedings and stuff is that litter is generally there to provide survival of a wolf pack. So you're going to have some killers, you're going to have some just out wide workers that just start gathering the buffalo and whatnot else. And then you're also going to have some throaters, you're going to have, and then you're going to have some heel-bite chasing wild ones. And I guess that ability within a litter, and possibly if you're breeding them for yourself, you should probably keep them all, but that does put you in the loony bin pretty quickly.
Yes, it
and,
does.
I wouldn't recommend that. So, but it is, to me, I think, like if you've got a good strong bitch line, I think you should hang on to it as hard as you can, and take that. I look for a similar sire, and similar to similar, like to like. A lot of people sort of say, but it is difficult in the dog world because the genetics are very, very varied. They're quite apart, there's been plenty of people that have done the inbreed line, and that doesn't work for very long. If you don't know where you're going with that, you've got to be pretty good and pretty cautious with that one. But to me, breeding the pups comes back to that bitch, and I just like a strong, but not wildly strong, firm bitch, and she's got to be confident and with she's got to have those work trade abilities, that it's got that things, and then try to find a sire that's temperament and that those abilities, and that can be difficult when you're probably breeding kelpies in Queensland, where there's quite a lot of bloody border collies up here, unfortunately. For me, for breeding, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
not
100%.
Unfortunately, because they're border collies. Yeah.
And do you like your bitch to be of a certain maturity level or in a headspace before breeding from them?
Oh, look, I had some really good advice once. If your bitch is really quite immature at that sort of 12 months, but she does come in season, and you do sort of like her, because you'd understand her genetics by 12 months of age if she's a cow, probably more so than other breeds. But you'll see the work in them a bit, and sometimes to give them a bit of maturity. Neil Christensen over in he said he just put her in pup and let them sit it out for a year, or 6-8 months sort of thing, and it really does work. Like, they come back into the game, they sort of, their body's matured, they're ready to go, and maybe you got something out of the litter of pups too, sort of thing. So, and I think what that does is just, instead of us constantly putting pressure on that young dog to perform, I think what it does is wash them out, and it sort of takes all that pressure off them. It lets them, just lets them bloody grow up. And really, I don't think any dog's that great until they're 2-year-old at least, and if not a bit more so, because as I say, in the clinics and whatnot else, a 1-year-old dog is only a 7-year-old child. You shouldn't expect anything of them, and 2-year-olds still only 14. Well, they can open and shut gates and lift a few things and do a few, drive the ute here and there, but not real well. And so really be expecting that much of your dogs at that age, but everyone does. And that's just the impatience within the industry.
Yeah.
And what were you going to say?
I was say absolutely. Impatient. Everyone wants things done yesterday, right?
I'm impatient. So.
I noticed.
How do you go about picking a pup for yourself, and has that changed at all?
Oh, yeah, because I stopped breeding pups. I could go and choose a pup, and that's been really good, because when you breed your own pups and you choose one, usually it's the worst of the litter. So I've actually been getting good ones because they're not my litters. but when I go choosing a pup, I don't know. I just think you've got to like the look of it. If you don't like the look of it, you'll never like the dog. Doesn't matter what its breeding is. And if I could give some advice to any listeners, if you don't see something that you like in the litter, just walk away. Don't spend money that you don't want to spend. Breeders will understand eventually, but you don't like the look of them, if you don't like their style or whatever, and do research on your parents. And I do that as well. So I've either seen both parents work and grandparents, or I have seen the mother work, and also I've seen video of the father. So I do plenty of research before I go and do it, because we are starting to spend a reasonable amount of money now that dogs are just making that much extra nowadays. And it's good to see. It's very good to see for the industry. If we'd probably hung in there a little bit longer, we might have got some of it. So.
In a bit earlier, you mentioned about not liking, like, you like to see something happening by 4 months, and you don't want to see a pup in the kennel for 12 to 18 months and not doing a lot. Do you have any milestone expectations on your pups? So what are you looking for, and when?
Oh,
I suppose.
pretty well. Like I say, at that 4 months of age, I'd just like to see a little sign of interest with movement. Whether it be ducks, whether it be sheep, whether it be cattle, doesn't worry me as long as they've sort of got a little bit of the instincts just starting to come out. You can see it coming out. 6 months, I'll reintroduce them and whatnot else, and have a look at how they're progressing. 8 months, they're doing the same. But that 4 month, I think if you wait too long before you show them livestock, I think they can go stale. Whether it be kennel style or whether it be Gold Coasting, just running around doing nothing with their own thing. I believe, you can leave them not see livestock for too long as well. So I like to introduce them to it fairly early, reasonably early, but also so that they've got legs to actually, start running. They're not, little pups. They're not
Getting around with
we're
stuff.
really quite sheep and those baby pups. But sometimes that's just it can become a nuisance too. So but I definitely like to see something by about 4 months. And I think that's what Greg Prince said to me once. He said, "You're lucky because you got Kelpies, so you get to see what you're going to see earlier in life than a border collie." So, and I always think back to that, and I sort of every time I've tried a BC, I go back to thinking I just don't know if I've got a lifetime to wait for this. So it's a patience game. So so that's probably why I like the Kelpies too. Yeah, they show me what they're going to show me.
Yeah. And is most of your training done on the job, or do you set time aside?
No, look, times have changed. I do actually set time aside. Back in the day, obviously, when we were contracting, it was all done really time on the job. But we had some really good people that we worked for, and they allowed us to do after hours trading with our dogs on the shed and whatnot else. And there was a lot of beer drunk doing that one. They were good times. And look, I think there's some really genuine people coming through the ranks that have been treated correctly by good trainers, and there's some really good trainers doing that. And I think if you're going to go anywhere, I'll say to anyone that's out there, I reckon the most important thing you could ever get, if you want to get a dog to a certain point and stop, well, that would be balance with no commands of Greg Prince's thing there. You can get a call on it and you get balance with no commands, and proper balance, not that's recognising the flight zone. And I don't think many people ever bloody understand that part of it. But if the dog doesn't recognise the flight zone, it's just flocking the sheep or flocking the cattle, well, it's not balanced yet. So go back to the starting board. So anyway, that's my idea. But I think for me, my training, if I can get it up to balance with no commands, that's how you can take those mobs of weaners out with young dogs, like with 8, 9 month old weaner, young dogs. You can take them out on the weaner jobs, but understanding what balance is, they're understanding what flight zone is. They don't get in the way. They don't ruin things. They can hold the mob together, and they don't put pressure on because you're not walking anywhere. So they know that they've got to pull up and wait, and then they just have to put pressure on the livestock to push them back over onto me if they're grazing away too far. So it's just one of those things where, I think a lot of people, if you want trainability, that's the step that everyone skips because they want to get onto the sits and the bloody call and the commands and everything. But I think there's a lot of people that are missing out on the most important one for overall livestock work, whether it be sheep or cattle.
And you think that's just trying to rush pups through and build them up quicker than what they're actually maybe mentally capable of taking at the time?
Oh yeah, and I mean, there's no bigger pressure cooker than a round yard, and I think anyone that's first time into one that hasn't shut a pup down, they'd be lying if they said they haven't down in a round yard. Geez, it's so quick and easy because it is pressure, it's high pressure, but I think introducing it steady and taking your time and patience in those round yard situations is what gets you through. It's not good for someone like me. You know, I've always had anger issues, I guess you could say. But it's frustration more than anything, and that's just from lack of knowledge and lack of experience. I'd say more than anything, lack of experience. So, you know, Greg had always, you know, he used to come there to do his clinics and stuff, and say, you know, like, yeah, I've done 300 and something dogs, and you go, holy crackers, well, I've got a bloody couple of hundred to go. Yeah, haven't I? So there's a lot of mistakes made, but I think sometimes when you do it outside of a round yard and out in the paddock or out in a big yard or something like that, I don't think the mistakes are as hard on the dog. So they're a little bit let slide off because the bigger area they don't find, I guess. But I do think people rush too many steps. It confuses the dog. It confuses yourself. You don't know whether you're doing a sit lesson, a bloody call session, or whether you're doing left and rights. You know, like, people just get in there and then they go, oh, rightio, well, hang on, it's not doing this now, so I'll start on a new thing. You're supposed to go in there with one plan and one plan only. But yeah, so many people change 3/4 of the way through and then start turning it into a half-hour session instead of a, you know, 3 minute, 2-3 minute job. So anyway, that's just watch out for that for anyone that's learning how to train a dog. So yeah.
Yeah, I actually think that's a pretty important thing to identify, mate, because some of us, we do go in there for the intention to do something, and you try to do that, and while you're trying to achieve that, you've noticed something else, and before you know, it's drawn out to a pretty lengthy process, and everybody's frustrated at the end of the day.
And nothing got achieved.
Absolutely. Well, what does usually happen is you got a dog that's shut down that you have to go and spend another bloody couple of hours making up to with, you know, like give him some beer for a change too. So like,
Yeah.
so just to get the friendship back again, because I mean, yeah, you blew it all, you know, like asking just way too much of a young animal. And that, I think what we've got to do is sort of get back to looking at age and what they can actually take on board. And I just, you know, there's a lot of people that want to be the hero that got the young dog up and going, but I think what we need to do is sort of put the time in. And if you want to get young dogs going slow and steady, I guess then you need to keep getting more of them a bit more often, but take the process a lot more slowly with each one of those pups. Yeah. So that it's a long progression rather than a short, fast ride. That's right.
That's some really good advice.
I was going to say, you know, like, well, the comparisons are too, you know, there's a lot of horses that break down because they've been raised as 2-year-olds. And I think, again, that's just people rushing things through. And we can also do the same thing with those dogs. You can hurt all their joints and whatnot else by getting them to do too much backing, too much shed work and stuff when they're just too young. So let their joints and bones bloody, you know, harden up, and then you can start really driving it into them. So that's my opinion anyway.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Man, you mentioned earlier that you've done a little bit of trialing. Do you want to touch on what trialing you have done previously?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, we probably had the best time ever going trialing because we'd never done yard dog trialing before. Obviously, coming from Queensland, we had no experience with sheep. So we got down there, had a crash course in sheep, and then Neil McDonald obviously said, "Oh, geez, you better come over and do a dog trial." So we, with no experience really under our belt, apart from a bit of drenching and trying to teach dogs how to back in a hurry, we sort of got over and did a dog trial or two over in the South Australian Bloody Yard Dog Association. No, great group of people. Some really, really good, I think, long-lasting friendships were made there too. So, people like Lyndon Cooper, Rexy Hocking, and Neil McDonald himself, and as well as watching Helen, and there was a trainload of people there that were a lot of experience, and it was just great to get around with them, and also then we sort of progressed on to different trials, and you always met someone new and someone more interesting, or not more interesting, but someone just as interesting. And for some reason too, they all enjoyed beer. It was one of those common sorts of threads. There was a lot of beer at the end of each trial, or during some of the trials, actually. Yeah, but I bet you didn't know that in yard dog trialing in South Australia, sometimes you are forced to go for a swim in the Murray River as part of the trial, just to get your sheep before it drowns in the Murray. So, what about that, mate?
I was gonna say, it sounds like there might be a story to that one.
Tried out the Queensland lifesaver skills, went and saved her, brought her back, didn't have to do CPR. It was, no mouth to mouth. That was out. That was never going to happen. So back in the yards and away we went. Very well done it was, actually. Seamless.
Let's go.
Well, my next question was, do you have any special moments that you remember?
Sounds like that one's
I think you might have nailed that one.
But they were good times. I would say I was really proud of Yvonne as well. She got to represent. She was one of the Queensland representatives for the 2000 dog trial at Camden for the Olympics. So she had a crack there. So that was more than over the moon with that. It's one of her personal bests, I think. So but she was always a very good trialer too. So she was very competitive. And she drank enough too, so that worked out quite well. So we did really enjoy. We did enjoy it. Loved it actually. Loved our yard dog trialing, and then came up to Queensland when we started doing a lot more work up here, and we did a couple of trials here and there, and we just I guess we probably didn't enjoy it as much. Look, I think everything was fine. Like, people are great, everything's good, but I didn't find the level of intensity as challenging. I couldn't get around the course myself, but if you only had a few dogs, you were always handicapped as cattle were getting redrafted and drafting off ones that were difficult. And that was the trouble. I was always finding that the dog that still had a really good run, it might have only been in the 80s, but had a good run on the fresh cattle, wasn't rewarded, as opposed to the person that had a run on some very recycled cattle towards the end of the day. So I guess I think perhaps maybe they need to sort of have a rethink about that, because it seems to be the people that seem to get into the finals and either get some of the money or all of the money. So and that was probably. I didn't think that was as positive as what it was in the yard dog trials. It was just whatever sheep you got, and that was your day. And they were very seldom. They were redrafted, but they weren't. No, there was no troublemakers on them. So it was, if you got it, you got it, and you had to wear it. And I think that was really fair. And I think it was really positive. And I think what we got to see was the best dogs could still make those difficult ones workable, and I think that's the stockmanship, and that's what dogs are there for, because we've all got difficult cattle on a day, and sitting there trying to reward yourself with something that a Chihuahua could probably put around the course is, it's almost a hollow victory compared to getting those really tricky sort of really. You might run out of time, but you still held them, And then that dog would be easily able to go and get that clean skin Mickey or whatever it is out the back, and give it enough time, and you'll still be able to bring bring that booger all the way to the heart, back to the yards on its own 4 feet instead of having to throw it and then drive the tractor or whatever it is out there to go and get it. No, it's I think we need to, well, that's why I enjoy the sheep and not so much the cattle. But anyway, that's all we need to say.
Actually, talking about that scenario there, we often hear the debates that trial dogs don't make real work dogs. What's your take on that?
Well, I think in some cases that's right, and I think there's definitely some of those trial dogs that'll make really good working dogs. And I'm sometimes wondering with trial dog whether we buy our working dogs from the wrong people. I think sometimes we need to be sourcing those contractor type people, the people that are doing it every day, that are using, for that job. If they're doing it every day, well, I think that's kind of the person that we probably need to go to. So I'm a farmer now, like a grazier. I need to probably go to a grazier that's got some really good dogs, but they're a bit more steady. They haven't got as much go in them. They don't want to go all day, every day for 7 days a week. So I think that's possibly one of those things about the trial dogs. But I think some trial dogs are beautiful. The other thing is Jim O'Connell from up at Winton there. He used to always say he tried to get away with his 3 sheep dogs being also his work dogs, and he said at the end of the day you couldn't do it, because with the work dogs, a big mob of sheep is like kicking a half flat soccer ball across the flat, and then with doing 3 sheep it's like getting a pin and trying to move a balloon across the paddock, so and I agree with him 100% on that. So that there is a difference in those 3 sheep trial dogs compared to the work dogs. And I think other 3 sheepers possibly agree with that. Being that I don't do 3 sheep, I don't know how they feel about it, but that was from Jim, and I think he's a pretty good yardstick to go off. But I dare say someone will come out and argue that point.
There's always fors and against, right? And there's always exceptions to
exactly
every rule as well. So.
Absolutely, there is, and there is, and I will say that there is always a difference of opinion in many cases there. So
And with the new association starting in Queensland, mate, any aspirations to get back into some yard dog or utility trialing?
I wouldn't put it past me. Probably in about 5 more years. That I've sort of got a bit of a goal here at the moment with the cattle, but probably in about 5 or so years, I think I'll start feeling old enough that I go to a trial again. So then I'll be prepared enough. If I've got 5 years up my sleeve, I'm sure that I'll be prepared enough. But I'd be really happy with it. I mean, I remember years back, Eddie Hackman he was about to start up a dog, and it was a really practical one. And I thought it was going to be really good actually, but it went by the wayside. So let's hope the new association gets something a bit more practical and a bit more helpful. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
That's good. Yeah,
it's good, mate. They got some good people behind it there, so hopefully a heap of people get behind them and really drive it and make something of it.
No, yeah, for sure. I'd say it's just got to. Yeah, something's got to move anyway, so that'll be good.
That's it. Mate, it's come to that time of the night, mate. Was there a question that stood out for you when they'll win a bag of Enduro high-energy food for working dogs with real kangaroo meat?
Well, I was thinking Tristan's, was that about the trainability? Was that correct? Like the...
No. Tristan asked about your...
Yes, where you source your dogs from
and the lines that you like.
Source. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. Yep. That was the one. That was the one.
Righto.
Bingo.
Beautiful.
Right there.
Well-
I think Tristan well and truly deserves a good bag of the good stuff, because that's what we definitely, it's a winner for us. Yeah.
Oh, that's good to hear.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Well, Tristan, if you want to send us your details, mate, there's a bag of Enduro coming your way. And Sean, thanks for being a guest tonight. There's also a bag of Enduro coming your way, so I'll grab your details a bit later as well.
Oh, happy days. Thank you so much. Thanks very much for the for the time and I
Don't thank us yet, mate. We
Didn't
don't
bang
let you
on
off
too
so
much.
easy.
One last question before you
that's
go.
okay.
Would you rather fight 20 horses the size of ducks or one duck the size of a horse, and why?
Oh yeah, look, I did actually train ducks for the Melbourne show, but they were North Queensland ducks. So the small ones are really dangerous. They can bring a crocodile to its knees. So I'm going to say one big duck.
Yep.
And I'll probably be
That's
always known for that person as just that one duck. just one duck. Yeah. So.
Mate, thank you very much for your time tonight. Really appreciate it.
And to all of our viewers for tuning in,
Oh,
it's
no.
great to see people jumping on every week. So thank you to them as well.
Thanks very much, guys. Yeah, and I appreciate with the ordinary work too.
Nah, thank you, mate. And to everyone out there, please remember we learn every day. And the day we stop learning off each other will be a sad one for all of us.
Thank you.
Good night.